Welcome to Things You Don't Know. This episode is another one started by Dr. Deneen and myself, playing our special version of I Spy with My Eye. One of the first items I saw was what we chose to investigate for this episode. As usual, we discovered a rich history of an everyday item. The tool or item, whatever you want to call it, has been with us since ancient times. That object is scissors. To make things a bit more interesting, we are offering a special incentive to our listeners. We're giving away a personalized keychain to 3 subscribers who share the most interesting ways they have used scissors.
I have to admit, I truly enjoy it when we can find something that seems ordinary and make a wonderful story out of it. Today, we introduce very young school children to scissors and teach them how to safely use them. In ancient times, scissors were more often the tools used by adults for serious purposes other than cutting paper in preschool. Leonardo da Vinci, as with so many other things, has often been credited with inventing scissors. He used the device for cutting canvas, but the household tool predates his lifetime by many centuries. Nowadays, it's hard to find a household that doesn't have at least one pair. To my great surprise, the ancient Egyptians used a version of scissors as long ago as 1500 BC. That's 3,500 years ago, folks. They were a single piece of metal, typically bronze, fashioned into 2 blades that were controlled by a metal strip. The strip kept the blades apart until they were squeezed. Each blade was a scissor. Collectively, the blades were scissors, or so rumor has it. Through trade and adventure, this invaluable device eventually spread beyond Egypt to other parts of the world. The Romans adapted the Egyptian design in 100 AD, creating pivoted or cross-blade scissors that were more in line with what we have today. The Romans also used bronze, but they sometimes made their scissors from iron as well. Roman scissors had 2 blades that slid past each other. The pivot was situated between the tip and the handles to create a cutting effect between the 2 blades when they were applied to various properties. Both Egyptian and Roman versions of scissors had to be sharpened regularly.
This kind of blew my mind. In an entire book, a whole book describing the history of the cutting tool called appropriately A Story of Shears and Scissors, 1848 to 1948. Author Dan Weiss described the history of the implement. And he said, Egyptian bronze shears of the 3rd century BC were a unique object of art, showing Greek influence, although with decoration characteristic of Nile culture. The shears are illustrative of the high degree of craftsmanship which developed in the period following Alexander's conquest of Egypt. Decorative male and female figures, which complement each other on the blade, are formed by solid pieces of metal of a different color inlaid on the bronze shears. Sounds a little sexual to me, but hey, I'm cool with that. He went on, Sir Flinders Petrie ascribes the development of cross-bladed shears to the 1st century. In the 5th century, Isidore of Seville, describes cross-bladed shears or scissors with a central pivot as tools of the barber and tailor.
The earliest known scissors appeared in Mesopotamia, that's modern Iraq, 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. These were of the spring scissor type comprising two bronze blades connected at the handles by a thin, flexible strip of curved bronze. This served to hold the blades in alignment and to allow them to be squeezed together as well as to pull them apart when released. Spring scissors continued to be used in Europe until the 16th century. However, pivoted scissors of bronze or of iron, in which the blades were pivoted at a point between the tips and the handles, the direct ancestor of modern scissors, were invented by the Romans around 100 AD. They entered common use in not only ancient Rome, but also China, Japan, and Korea, and the idea is still used in almost all modern scissors. During the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, spring scissors were made by heating a bar of iron or steel, then flattening and shaping its ends into blades on an anvil. The center of the bar was heated, bent to form the spring, then cooled and reheated to make it flexible. The Hangzhou Zan Siquan Company in Hangzhou, China, has been manufacturing scissors continuously since 1663. William Whiteley and Sons, Limited in Sheffield, was producing scissors by 1760. Although it is believed the business began trading in scissors even earlier. The first trademark for scissors, number 332, was granted in 1791. The company is still manufacturing scissors today, and it is the oldest company in the West to do so. Pivoted scissors were not manufactured in large numbers until 1761, when Robert Hinchcliffe of Sheffield produced the first pair of modern-day scissors made of hardened and polished cast steel. His major challenge was to form the bows. First, he made them solid, then drilled a hole and filed away the metal to make this large enough to emit the user's fingers. This process was laborious, and apparently Hinchcliffe improved upon it in order to increase production. During the 19th century, scissors were hand-forged with elaborately decorated handles. They were made by hammering steel on indented surfaces known as bosses to form the blades. The rings in the handles, known as bows, were made by punching a hole in the steel and then enlarging it with the pointed end of an anvil. In 1649, in Swedish-ruled Finland, an ironworks was founded in the village of Fiskars between Helsinki and Turku. In 1830, a new owner started the first cutlery works in Finland, making, among other items, scissors with the Fiskars trademark.
The vast majority of global scissor manufacturing takes place in China. As of 2019, China was responsible for 64.3% of worldwide scissors exports. When combined with Chinese Taipei exports, this rises to 68.3%. The primary scissor producing region in China is in Guangdong province. The Hangzhou Zhangjiang Company, founded in 1663, is one of the oldest continuously operating scissor manufacturers in the world. The company was nationalized in 1958 and now employs 1,500 people who annually mass produce an estimated 7 million pairs of inexpensive scissors that retail for an average of $4 American. In the late 14th century, the English word scissors came into use. It was derived from the old French word cisoire, which referred to shears, actually. There are several historically important scissors making regions in France. These towns, like many other scissor producing companies or communities, began with saber, sword, and bayonet production, which transitioned to scissors and other blades in the late 18th and early 19th centuries.
In keeping with its great commitment to industrialization, Germany was responsible for manufacturing just under 7% of global scissors exports in 2019. Often called the City of Blades, Solingen in North Rhine-Westphalia has been a center for the manufacturing of scissors since medieval times. At the end of the 18th century, it's estimated that there were over 300 scissorsmiths in Solingen. In 1995, the city of Solingen passed the Solingen Ordinance, an update to a 1930s law that decreed made in Solingen stamps could only be applied to products almost entirely manufactured in the old industrial area of Solingen. In 2019, this applied to approximately 150 companies making high-quality blades of all kinds, including scissors. Frederick Herder, founded in Solingen in 1727, is one of the oldest scissor manufacturers still operating in Germany. Vimana in Lecco province has its origin in ironworks and knife manufacturing beginning in the 16th century. In 1900, there were 10 scissor manufacturing workshops, 20 in 1952, and 48 by 1960. Today in Italy, Consorzio Primax, an industrial partnership, organizes over 60 local companies involved in the manufacture of scissors for global markets. In 2019, Italy exported 3.5% of scissors manufactured globally. One of the oldest Parmenese scissor manufacturing firms still in operation is Sinelli Ambrosio, which was founded in 1869, 2 years before final Italian unification.
Scissor making in Japan specifically evolved from sword making in the 14th century. Sekai in Gifu Prefecture was a renowned center of sword making beginning in the 1200s. After citizens were no longer permitted to carry swords, the city's blacksmiths turned to making scissors and knives. There are many specialized types of Japanese scissors, but sewing scissors were introduced by American Commodore Matthew Perry from the United States in 1854. The Sasuke workshop in Saikai City, south of Osaka, is run by Hiroshuta Hirakawa, a fifth-generation scissors smith. The company has been in continuous operation since 1867. Hashihiro Harakawa is the last traditional scissor maker in Japan, making scissors in the traditional style where the blades are believed to be thinner, lighter, and sharper than European scissors. In 2018, he was even profiled in a documentary that featured a pair of his bonsai snips, which retailed for, grab this, $35,000 US.
That's amazing. In Solsona, Spain, scissor manufacturing began in the 16th century. At the industry's peak in the 18th century, there were 24 workshops organized in medieval fashion as the Guild of St. Eligius, the patron saint of knife makers. By the mid-1980s, there were only 2, and by 2021, Palearis Solsona, founded in 1917 by Luis and Carles Palearis Canal and still family operated, was the town's sole remaining artisanal scissor manufacturer. Sheffield was home to the first mass production of scissors in 1761. By the 19th century, there were an estimated 60 steel scissor companies in Sheffield. However, since the 1980s, industry globalization and a shift toward cheaper, mass-produced scissors created price deflation that many artisanal manufacturers simply could not compete with. The Sheffield scissor industry consisted of just two local companies in 2021. The two remaining Sheffield scissor manufacturers were William Whiteley, founded in 1760, and Ernest Wright, which was established in 1902. Both now focus on high-end niche crafting of so-called products for life, quote, rather than mass production.
Today, there are many specialized types of scissors and shears used in specific fields, including medical. There's like nine, at least nine, there's probably a few more different types of scissors. Gardening and agriculture with at least six different scissors. Food and drug with at least three different scissors, probably more. Grooming and hygiene with six different scissors. Metalwork with six or so different types of scissors. And sewing and clothing with at least eight different types of scissors. I kind of think that's interesting, and it's sort of surprising. If we had more time, we could go through and detail each of these types of scissors. It makes sense when you see the list, but wow, interesting that they would come up with all of them, isn't it, Dr. Deneen?
It is specialization to an extreme level. There are also scissors made for left-handed, ambidextrous, and right-handed people. I remember when I was a child in our kindergarten and first grade class, the left-handed scissors had a green circle on them and the right-handed scissors had a red circle on them. That's how we remembered which to use. Scissors have been highlighted in literature, in music, art, films, sports, and games. In many ways, the invention of scissors making use of the physics, i.e., utilizing the fulcrum effect, which amplifies the force of the scissors coming from the handle. This enhances cutting ability, as well as making possible detailed cutting, and is in fact one of the most creative things people have come upon.
Yeah. Well, okay. With anything, we get kind of a cavalcade, a cavalcade of superstitious notions that happen with them. And scissors are no exception to that. They have a very widespread place in cultural superstitions. In many cases, the details of the superstition may be specific to a given country, region, tribe, religion, or even situation. For example, in Africa, in parts of North Africa, it was held that scissors could be used to curse a bridegroom. This is how it happened. When the bridegroom was on horseback, the person enacting the curse would stand behind him with the scissors open and call his name. If the bridegroom answered to his name being called and turned, the scissors would be snapped shut, and the bridegroom would be, as we say, unable to consummate his marriage with his bride. In Asia, in Pakistan, some believe that scissors should never be idly opened and closed without purpose because it's supposed to cause bad luck. In Western Europe, as iron was believed to ward off fairies, British parents typically hung a pair of iron scissors over cradles. The cradles, yeah, to keep fairies away from their infants. Sometimes the scissors were kept open to make the shape of a cross for extra protection. in United States, in New Orleans, some believed that putting an open pair of scissors underneath your pillow at night was a sound method for sleeping well, even if one is cursed. in, in Eastern European countries, it is sometimes believed that leaving scissors open causes fights and disagreements within a household. In China, it's believed that giving a pair of scissors to a friend or loved one is symbolically to be cutting ties with them. Another interesting superstition, not tied to a specific culture, so far as I've been able to determine, is for a pregnant woman to keep a pair of scissors under her pillow, which was thought to bring about a safe and timely birth of her child. This is thought to be tied to cutting the umbilical cord. Well, I really hope you've enjoyed this surprising history of an implement that we just, it's ubiquitous. I mean, every household probably has one. And we hope you've enjoyed the podcast in general. Don't forget about our little prize. We'd love to hear some really interesting, different things. For example, I I had used scissors very inappropriately, I might add, but necessarily under the circumstances to open a can with. And how I did it was I jammed the one arm of the scissors into the can, which would perforate the can, and then cutting around the thinner part of the can to open the can. It worked, a little messy, and sure didn't do any favors for the scissors, but whatever. Um, Anyhow, join us again. We've got some good things coming up, and we will probably be getting a report from Dr. Deneen. He doesn't know this. I didn't mention it to him yet, but getting a report. He's taking a research trip this weekend and next week. And I'm expecting to get some really exciting news from him on that. And you should tune into that. We also have other things coming up. But hey, while you're thinking about it, because I'm making you think about it by mentioning it, click the like button, click the bell to be reminded of new podcasts. And for now, bye.
Yes, I'm looking forward to reporting. Keep your eyes open for that, folks. And as Dr. Weaver said, give us a like, join the podcast if you haven't, comment, make suggestions for future ideas. We really enjoy doing this.
And participate in our contest.
Absolutely. So long for now, folks.
Bye.